welcome to my channel. Please like this video and subscribe. By the mid-19th century, East Africa was under growing European influence. German colonizers forced local communities into harsh cotton cultivation. Farmers were ordered to abandon food crops, leading to famine and suffering. Resentment grew in the fertile lands of southern Tanganyika, today's Tanzania. In 1854, a spiritual leader named Kinjekitile Ngwale claimed to have received a vision from a serpent spirit. He preached that sacred water, known as Maji, could protect warriors from German bullets. This belief united dozens of ethnic groups under one cause, freedom. The rebellion erupted in July 1854. Villages rose in unison, burning cotton fields, attacking German garrisons, and destroying colonial outposts. For a brief moment, the movement spread like wildfire across southern and eastern Tanganyika. But the German Empire responded with brutal force. Modern rifles and machine guns cut down waves of fighters who believed in the sacred water's protection. Villages were burned, crops destroyed, and famine became a weapon of war. Despite their courage, the rebels could not withstand the German firepower. By 1857, tens of thousands were dead. Entire communities were left in ashes. Yet the spirit of resistance lived on. The Maji Maji Rebellion was one of the earliest large-scale uprisings against European colonialism in Africa. Though it ended in tragedy, it united over 20 different ethnic groups in common cause. Today it is remembered as a symbol of African unity and resistance. This is part 1 of the Maji Maji Rebellion series. Now let's go back to the beginning of the story and learn how German colonialism created the conditions for this rebellion. Once upon a time in the 1800s, there was a region called Tanganyika in East Africa. It was a beautiful place with lots of mountains and lakes and rivers. The land was so good for farming. People grew bananas and coffee and cotton. There were also lots of wild animals like elephants and lions and zebras. One day, some explorers from Germany came to Tanganyika. They were looking for new places to explore, and they wanted to find out what was in Tanganyika. They met some local leaders, and they talked about trading and working together. But the German explorers did not really understand the local languages, so sometimes they had trouble talking to each other. Soon, more and more Germans came to Tanganyika. They built big houses and offices and started to run things. They brought soldiers to keep order and protect their interests. They made the local leaders pay taxes and follow their rules. And they forced them to work in cotton fields instead of growing food. The Germans also brought diseases like smallpox and measles that the locals had never seen before. These diseases spread quickly and many people died. Those who survived often became very sick and weak. Many people felt sad and angry. They missed their old ways of life and they hated the Germans for taking away their freedom. One man named Kinjekitile Ngwale was especially upset. He was a religious leader and he believed that the Germans were trying to destroy his people. One day, he went to a lake and prayed to the spirits of the water. He asked them to help him fight the Germans and free his people. When he came back from the lake, he told his followers that he had received a message from the spirits. They had given him a magic potion that would protect his people from German bullets. The people were very excited and they started to believe that they could win the war if they drank the magic potion. They called it Maji, which means water in Swahili. Kinjekitile shared the magic water with everyone and soon dozens of villages were using it. The people put the liquid on their bodies and on their weapons and they marched on the German forts and plantations. At first, the Germans were surprised and confused. They had never seen anything like this before. But then they started to fight back. They had big guns and rifles, and the people were scared at first. They thought that the magic water wouldn't work. But then they remembered what Kinjekitile had told them. He said that the magic water would protect them from the bullets and make them stronger. So they kept fighting and more people joined the rebellion. For a few months, the Germans couldn't stop the rebels. They burned cotton fields and attacked German soldiers. They killed many Germans and drove them back to their forts. The Germans were scared because they didn't know what to do. They had never fought a war like this before. Then they got an idea. They would use the people's own beliefs against them. The Germans started to tell the people that the magic water wasn't working. They said that the Germans were too strong and that the rebellion was hopeless. They tried to trick the rebels into giving up and going home. But not everyone believed the Germans. Some people kept fighting even when they lost the war. After 3 years of fighting, the Germans had won. They had killed many rebels and burned their villages. But they had also lost many men, and they were tired of fighting. The Germans decided to change their strategy. They made some of the rebel leaders promises and gave them jobs in the German government. They also started to grow food again and to trade with the people. They hoped that the people would forget about the rebellion and start to like the Germans. But the people never forgot what had happened. They remembered the Germans' cruelty and the loss of their friends and family members. They also realized that they needed to be careful and not trust the Germans. And that's the end of part 2 of the story. In the next part, we will learn how the Maji Maji Rebellion started and why the Germans were scared. We have seen how the Maji Maji Rebellion began in the face of German oppression. Now let's delve deeper into the tactics and strategies that both sides employed during this conflict. The rebels, led by spiritual leaders like Kinjekitile Ngwali, were deeply connected to their ancestral beliefs and practices. They utilized traditional African religions that emphasized a close relationship between humans and nature, incorporating elements like water, earth, and ancestral spirits into their rituals and ceremonies. This spiritual foundation gave them strength and resilience, shaping their approach to the rebellion. On the other hand, the German colonial forces were equipped with modern weaponry and had a more systematic and strategic approach to warfare. They relied on firearms, artillery, and military formations that were typical of European military tactics at the time. The Germans also had a significant advantage in terms of communication and transportation, using horses, bicycles, and later motor vehicles to move troops and gather intelligence. As the rebellion grew, the rebels used hit-and-run tactics, launching surprise attacks on German positions and then retreating into the dense forests and mountainous regions of Tanganyika. This strategy was effective in exploiting the Germans' unfamiliarity with the terrain and the vastness of the area. However, the Germans gradually adapted to these challenges, employing scorched earth tactics to destroy rebel food supplies and collaborating with local chiefs who supported the colonial regime. They also used propaganda to try to undermine the rebellion and demoralize the rebels. Despite facing superior firepower and resources, the rebels demonstrated remarkable bravery and determination, often fighting to the death rather than surrendering. Their deep knowledge of the land and their commitment to their cause enabled them to sustain the rebellion for several years, inflicting heavy casualties on the German forces. The Maji Maji Rebellion serves as a testament to the resilience and resourcefulness of the African communities in the face of colonial oppression. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned, the rebels fought back with courage and ingenuity, leaving a lasting legacy of resistance against colonialism. Now let's take a closer look at the impact of the rebellion on the people and the land. The Maji Maji Rebellion had a devastating impact on the people of Tanganyika. Tens of thousands of Africans were killed, entire villages were wiped out, and countless families were torn apart. The rebellion also caused widespread famine and disease, which further weakened the African communities. Despite the tragic consequences, the rebellion had a profound impact on the people's sense of identity and unity. It brought together different ethnic groups, uniting them in their struggle against a common enemy. The rebellion also fostered a sense of pride and resistance, inspiring future generations to continue the fight for independence. The legacy of the Maji Maji Rebellion can still be seen today in the people's determination to preserve their culture and heritage. The rebellion also had far-reaching consequences for the colonial administration in German East Africa. Although the rebellion was ultimately crushed, it exposed the weaknesses of the colonial system and the challenges of governing a diverse and resistant population. The rebellion also had an impact on the relationship between Germany and the rest of Europe. The German colonial administration in East Africa was known for its brutality and the suppression of local cultures. The Maji Maji Rebellion drew international attention to the atrocities committed by the German forces. After the rebellion was suppressed, the German colonial administration implemented reforms to try to improve its image and address some of the grievances that had sparked the rebellion. However, these efforts were limited and the underlying tensions and resentment continued to simmer. The Maji Maji Rebellion remains an important event in African history, symbolizing the continent's resistance against colonialism and oppression. The bravery and resilience of the African communities in the face of such adversity continue to inspire people around the world. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Maji Maji Rebellion. Please subscribe and leave a comment below. See you next time.